me. You'll see that too. Individuals coming into that waiting room will not be able to unmute themselves, but I can help you with that, Mr. Secor, if you don't know how to do that. You just hover over their name, push.
Yeah, I can.
Got it.
No worries.
You got it. Mr. Secor, you're good to go.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. It is 6:32 p.m. on Tuesday, March 8th. Welcome to the Scituate Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee meeting. In response to Governor Baker's declaration of a public health emergency and the related emergency executive order dated March 12th, 2020, it has been extended until April 22nd, 2022. We have continued to meet remotely, as we all know. This meeting will be recorded by Scituate Community Television and can be viewed live on Scituate Community Television Facebook Live. The recorded meeting will be available the following day on Comcast Channel 9 and YouTube Scituate Community Television. I would like to call the meeting to order. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, thank you. So I will call the roll. Ms. Dre,
Yes.
Ms. Risha,
Yes.
Ms. Gulata,
Yes.
Ms. Swope,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay. So I went ahead and I actually put our SDIC commitment statement straight into the agenda. Good recommendation from Ruth Yassine. So I'm going to go ahead and state that this is a safe, secure space for all people, especially people of color, and for all underrepresented people and communities. This is a space where people can bring up challenges and questions without fear. We will assume best intentions, and we will treat one another with politeness and respect at all times. This committee is dedicated to these standards. We want our members and others joining our meetings to feel welcomed and respected. Thank you. All right. Minutes. These were distributed, losing track of days, but I believe last week. Thank you to Natasha and obviously Ruth for diligently watching the video, because I know she was not present at last month's meeting, and she did a great job as always. There was a lot of detail in there based on our February meeting. Is there any commentary on the minutes? I mean, I went through it. It was spot on, at least by my recollection. Okay, no commentary. All right, so I would like to motion to accept the minutes. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, great. Call the roll. Ms. Dre,
Yes.
Ms. Risha,
Yes.
Ms. Gulata,
Yes.
Ms. Swope.
Yes.
All right, and I am a yes as well. Perfect, thank you. All right, let's jump right into our liaison reports. Does not look like we have Maura. So, Mr. Adams, could you kick us off?
It'll be my pleasure. So, friends and family, good to connect with you all. And one of the great things that I can share is that since we last met and Tom was present, ourselves in the library and the folks that are part of LitPAG, which is the Love, Inclusion, and Trust Parental Advisory Group, and Stride, and I mean, I might as well, SDIC, might as well say you all as well, kind of helped to make it possible for the first lit community conversations to happen. Whereas we discussed the Reverend Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail, and the resounding evaluation of the connection was positive, and most of the folks who registered showed up. We had 33 that were registered for the event, and 28 folks showed up, and that's not including those myself and Jesse and Ann, who were the folks who were facilitating the discussion that evening. And so folks felt good about it and want to see more of those things happening. We're going to do a debrief. I think our debrief is scheduled for next week, and we're going to determine at that point if we're going to try to do it monthly still, or if we want to change it to every other month kind of thing. Because we're also undertaking in April we want to begin a open expression night where folks can be like an open mic kind of thing, and we want to do it at the library, I believe. So we'll talk about that and we'll see what's up. So we're trying not to over commit ourselves. I don't know if Tom, if you had any thoughts about it. I mean, thank you for being there and being present. So
it was great. It was what did you carve out an hour? And I think an hour and a half later, nobody dropped. Right.
Yeah.
So it was cool that people, took the time and stayed on. I mean, obviously, if it wasn't compelling, people would have dropped. I mean, I'll say I've known of the letter to the Birmingham jail for a long time. I had never read it, and it's pretty mind blowing, honestly. And I've actually communicated it to some people that I work with in my day job that are involved with some of our internal DEI efforts, and they're reading it as well. And we may even set up a session internally, in my workplace. So really good stuff. If you haven't read it, I mean, read it. It's dense. I mean, there's a lot to it. It was really good. So I appreciate. I know, Jamil, you said, I know you had a lot of help putting it together. So to you and everybody else that made that happen, kudos. It's great.
that's all of us, always,
Yeah.
all of us. The other thing is, if I know reading, we read so much in other ways, and sometimes just don't have the time. If you commute and drive around and stuff like that, there's an audio version of it as well available of the letter where you actually hear it in Dr. King's voice. So if you go to YouTube, you can just, if you punch in letter from Birmingham jail, you can just hear it in his voice and entertain. And that was the first time I heard it in his voice was actually in preparation for the conversation. And I got so much more from it that I never really got from reading it. And I've read it, multiple times. And so hearing it was just a little different. So it's available also at the library. So if you go to their webpage, they have that available. If you all have discussion ideas, please share them now or with me through email, or you can email Jesse or Ann at the library, and we'll talk about it, figure out where we're going to go next. Folks appreciated having something to absorb before the conversation, so I think we want to continue to do that as well. The other thing is we are nearing. I actually have a question for you all as I share this information. I think we're getting closer to doing an equity audit for our district, but what I'm interested from the folks on the page is, I think I know the history of it, but I wonder if there's someone here can give me like maybe a brief history. You don't have to give me the whole thing, but is there a quick version of it maybe that someone here may know of how it came to be? I know that it precedes. It's probably about 2 years old in the making, from what I can gather, I think.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. We've kicked around equity audits and some of the discussions that we've had on this committee. But in terms of for the school district and so forth,
Okay.
I wasn't aware of any dialogue.
Jamil, was this it was an audit emailed out about a year and a half ago. And I think it may not have come from Scituate itself. It might have come from Hingham,
Mhm.
like some Hingham Unity group, perhaps. I remember getting the email and responding. And I think it was the data was from more than just Scituate. It was Scituate, Hingham, maybe a few surrounding towns. Let me see if I can find it and find who did it. But for some reason, Hingham is coming to mind.
Is it the Hingham Unity Council?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we actually discussed that at length. Nikki Sanders, when she was with us, she pushed that pretty hard and did a good job ensuring that we had a number of Scituate people respond to that. It was like a Survey Monkey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was Town of Scituate DI Committee partnered with the Hingham Unity Council, South Shore Community Diversity and Wellbeing Survey that was sent out almost a year ago today. I can forward this to you, Jamil.
Please, we have the results.
We got
We
the
do.
results.
We do.
Yep.
I absolutely would love to see that.
Question is, where are they? Does anyone have the results?
Yeah, I
I
think I
have
do.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll dig in our emails, but we have them. And I remember that the vast majority of the respondents were actually from Scituate. So it was Hingham, Scituate, and a couple of other towns, but the majority came from Scituate.
Do you know if it was done by a third party outside agency, or if it was like folks got together and just developed and did it on their own?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be guessing. I don't think it was a third party, but I could be wrong. And one other thing I think that we did with that, and I can dig it up because I had a couple of discussions with him afterwards, but Connor Doherty, he dove into the numbers. He's an Excel guy, right? So, and he sliced and diced the data, which I don't believe we ever got around to actually presenting that here, right? I can look for that information, and I can always reach out to Connor. We text on occasion. So.
Okay. I was going to text him too this evening and see if he, what he has. But please share the information.
He's got it. He'll send it to you.
Please share that. The other thing that I wanted to share is that all of our schools through the lit teams at a minimum are spending time have already created messages of love in regards to war that's going on. So folks are putting that energy out into the space. They're in the middle school and on the elementary level, it's just messages of love pretty much. And on at Gates, folks today were doing signs of love, but they were trying to do things that involve the colors of the Ukraine and also of Russia kind of together, because folks recognize, that there are people suffering and from both countries, and that and not many folks are able to separate the politician from the people kind of thing. There's just so much that's happening there. We also have students from Russia and from Ukraine as well, a number of students. And so I just wanted to share that. On the high school level, folks have made some smaller, more intimate things that they're posting around the school as well. That is just symbols of love. So those are some things that I have. Oh, and then be on the lookout for a group coming from the Lit and Tides group from the middle school are going to be putting something together to collect items to send to at least to the Ukraine, because we have a direct connection to families in the Ukraine, because there's a church, I think, somewhere nearby that many Scituate folks actually went to, that's Ukrainian in origin, and through that church, folks were able to send a whole bunch of items to Ukraine, and I think today or yesterday, a whole bunch of stuff went to a whole bunch of Pampers went yesterday. But before that, some other items went. So look out for that. I think this will probably be up and running by the end of the week, is my guess. So those are
just to add to that a little bit, because I had a conversation with Reverend Stewart last week, and she's had conversations with the Rotary Club in Scituate, and they spearheaded a drive similar to that, where I think they were collecting various goods. I think actually at Mulaney's fish market.
Yeah.
Is Joby, if anybody knows him, I believe he's of Ukrainian descent. So.
Yeah, so I know Joby, and my wife's business partnered with him to do some of those donations. So he went, I think, his whole life to a Ukrainian church in Jamaica Plain. So that church has the direct connect, which is bringing items over.
Yeah.
And so so if you want to get a mix of that, appreciate it. And then finally, there is the Dre family is helping to get some Cape Verde cuisine onto the menu out at Gates Middle School. So I think soon that will take place, which is fantastic. While at the same time at the elementary schools, the lit teams who selected different food items from different countries, that those are going to roll out. The first one is going to happen, I think, next week, and then sort of within the weeks to come, all the schools will be represented on the menu. If you were to look at the menu calendar now, you would see them. They're highlighted as well. So it's good to see that cultural cuisine piece happening. They took they took the lighter version to kind of introduce it for things. Like they got chicken parmesan and tacos and pico de gallo, and like I think there's a German mac and cheese thing, but that was intentional to kind of get it into the mix. And so there'll be some more coming, but it's good to know that the partnership is founded and it's already off and running. But this Cape Verde connection is going to be amazing. So Angela, we were just talking about today, so folks are so excited about that.
Yes, my grandson was at the lit meeting today, and he says, I hear you're helping out, and I told him it's probably one of our cousins. Actually, you do have a few cousins that own restaurants, so it's not just your cousin cooking at home. There are restaurant owners. He's like, I knew it.
We might be asking you to share some recipes, Angela.
Yeah. My oldest sister lives in town. She is the best Cape Verdean cook around. So if we couldn't get a restaurant person to do it, I would have had her make whatever food you wanted.
Never thought I'd be jealous about a middle school lunch, but I think
Exactly.
that's awesome.
The way that it's happening is that the person is going to, I'm not sure which cousin is going to come in, but I believe what's going to happen is they're going to come and actually teach how to appropriately make it. And then folks would kind of absorb that lesson and enjoy the tasting of what they learned. And then that will make its way into the menu so that folks know how to do it. I believe that's how it's going to roll out. Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
And that's it for right now.
Mm-hmm. Anything on actually, I was going to ask you about the Freedom Team, obviously.
Yeah, you always do, and I'm glad
you
say anything about it. I was like, the Freedom Team. So I think that the plan is to unveil the team the first week in April, because at this point we're just waiting to why are we waiting till April? The webpage may be done. Chances are it won't be. But that's in development, and we're trying to get the Facebook page together and get some announcements as well. So folks should know about it.
Great.
To utilize the Mariner, word of mouth, some announcements for the schools, and then we'll have 3 social media platforms that are just for letting folks know that are points of contact for folks, not for anything else. So there won't be activity on them, but there'll be a Twitter handle and a IG page and a Facebook page, and that's pretty much it. So folks can go there and get stuff, but they're not designed to be too active at this point. So
okay, great. Did one last question from me. Were you able to talk to Maura Curran as yet around a date for you to get in front of the select board and just kind of just talk about the concept?
No, but at the last meeting, Jim Boudreau raised that. He brought that up as well. So I imagine he and Maura will collaborate, and he said he'll let me know when we're gonna get together. I imagine it may be somewhere around that April week when we're trying to unveil. So I think that's how that will unveil. But yeah, Jim absolutely raised that at the last meeting.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right, great. All right, thank you as always. Any questions for Jamil? Anything else? Okay. All right, so I only missed the stride discussion on Indigenous peoples by 2 minutes, so that's not too bad, I will say. So welcome, Jean. Really appreciate you zooming in and spending some time with us to talk about this. So the floor is yours. We can just have a discussion.
Great, thanks for having me. And if you had asked for an unofficial non-liaison report from Stride, my first bullet point was going to be how thrilled we were to co-sponsor the lit conversation at the library, because to third what Tom and Jamil, you both said, it was fabulous. So we are very, very pleased to be part of that, and look forward to more of them in the future. So thank you. And then I didn't want to jump in the middle of your conversation, but the survey that went around, that was from, I believe it was originated in Hingham Unity Council, and I'm pretty sure they did it themselves. Katie Sutton would probably be a great point of contact over in Hingham to find out exactly what the status of that was. My recollection was, unless I'm mixing up with something else, but my recollection was that there was some of the data got kind of garbled, so it didn't have full results, but there were some results. But Jamil, if you want me to touch base with her or put you in touch with her, I can do that. But
yes.
Okay, I will ask about that then. Let's see. So moving on to Indigenous peoples issues, I think that Ruth Yassine shared with all of you the slides from our December Stride community meeting where we discussed Indigenous peoples issues, and we kind of framed it in terms of symbolic gestures, and with the goal of trying to understand what is the value of a symbolic gesture. Is it just symbolic? Is it empty? Or does it have value for the community that you're talking about? Does it have value for the community that you are trying to educate? And in my opinion, yes to both of those questions. So at that meeting, we looked at land acknowledgements, we looked at Indigenous Peoples Day, and we looked at town and state seals. Stride right now has a draft of a land acknowledgement statement that we're working on, and that we hope to kind of approve and have as part of our meetings moving forward sometime fairly soon. As an aside, a lot of this work I was also working on for the land acknowledgement. I was also working on with the social justice team at First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church here. So we've been working on it there for months as well. And we are just about to start test driving a land acknowledgement statement from the pulpit during worship service sometime in the next coming weeks. So within the church, we're moving very slowly, and we're trying to determine, can you just kind of put the stuff out there and just have it be, and it's something that people become curious about, and start to learn from because it's out there, or how much of a process do you go through to like really bring everybody on board, really educate people? So those are the types of questions for any of these things, including Indigenous Peoples Day, that I think you have to look at. Indigenous Peoples Day, and I'm not sure how many of you are aware, at the state level, the the deadline for getting items out of committee came and went, I think, last month. And they had in terms of Indigenous legislation agenda, there had two things that came out of committee successfully. The bill about recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day statewide did not make it out of committee. So that will be going back. They will be, United American Indians of New England will be resubmitting that next January for another try. And I think I believe that the legislation for about using Indigenous symbols and names for mascots, that might be out of committee successfully. So they're working on that as well. And I know that that's another area that that Native peoples are very concerned about. Scituate, and obviously has Wampatuck Elementary School, but luckily we don't have any Indigenous mascots, so we don't have to worry about that. So anyway, circling back to Indigenous Peoples Day, I think that, and I'm going to say that the better person to be presenting on this is probably Nicole Brandolini, because as a school committee member, I think she was instrumental in getting the Scituate Public Schools calendar switched over to Indigenous Peoples Day. I think that I think for something like that, I think making the change and having the calendar change, I think is a very good thing. And I definitely support this group moving it up to the select board and seeing if they would be willing to do that. I know that there's concern about doing away with Columbus Day, and I believe that there's also an additional concern in terms of Columbus Day being a holiday that's written into contracts. I wouldn't think that would be an issue. It's still a national Columbus Day is still going to be a national holiday until such time as it is not. So I can't imagine that if Scituate puts Indigenous Peoples Day on its calendar, that would have any impact on contracts and people's holidays. But Bob, you might know something more about that than I do, but I wouldn't think that would be an issue. So I would just be in favor of trying to move it forward and encouraging the select board to move forward with it. So those are that's kind of a very, very brief overview of our thoughts on it from Stride, and don't know if anybody has any questions that I can try to help with.
Yeah, so a couple of comments and maybe some questions in here. So the deck that you guys, the slides that you guys created were great, and as you mentioned, they were shared. And I don't even know if this is a complete list, but there's at least 17 different towns and cities that have gone ahead and adopted Indigenous Peoples Day, which gives me some hope. And I quickly, and I think some of us were on the email thread, maybe everybody was, I was just doing some quick research. I didn't do exhaustive research on all of them and like what the path was that it took for these municipalities to get there, right? Different forms of government, some have a mayor, some have select boards, right? So I think one of the things that we'll need to do, and I guess my question is did you guys go deeper on it in terms of that path that I'm kind of, and we're happy to do it, right? Like we're happy to like pick up the baton, right? Because we have the forum, I think, to do it ultimately. But any thoughts on that?
And sorry, did you say, did we do any of that outreach or research
No,
to find out how other towns did it?
Yeah.
I don't think we did very much of that. Ruth Yassine was actually the person who put together most of this information for IPD, for Indigenous Peoples Day, so she would know better. I think at this point we were mostly presenting information and
Yes.
haven't done a lot of research into finding out how other towns have done it. There could very well. I will, so backing up, one of the goals that we had at this December meeting was we were hoping that people would be enthusiastic and that we would have a number of people beyond our steering committee who would say, oh, I'm really excited about this and interested in this and I want to help you with it. And I'm gonna have to go back through and see if we got any emails after that meeting. We certainly didn't have a rush of people saying, oh yeah, I'm happy to start making phone calls or start writing letters or whatever, but I could check to see if there were any people beyond steering committee members who were interested in it. And yeah, maybe there's some additional human resources that we could throw at it to spread the work out. But
Okay.
there might be, certainly Stride as an organization and the members of the steering committee and other people might we might be able to help do some of that research if this committee feels like they want to move it forward, but want more information before they put it in front of the select board.
So I actually did some research on this. I had mentioned at the last meeting that I would reach out to some of my human resources counterparts from that list of towns that had adopted this. And so I was met with some moderate success. So I probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 messages I left, and I heard back from 2 towns. So at least I heard back from 2. So the 2 that I heard back from was Mashpee and Belmont. And really my interest, well, 2 things. One, I was like, well, how did you do this? What was the process that the town went through to make this happen? And the second one, from my sort of human resources, labor relations perspective, were any implications in that regard. So, and actually, so for both Belmont and Mashpee, it was actually a citizen's petition that went before the town meeting. So I actually talked at length with the human resources director from Belmont, and she said that at the town meeting, she said it was a pretty robust debate, and she said it was a student group that actually had done an entire presentation on like why, and she said it was really well done, and it just resulted in a lot of debate, a lot of feedback, but ultimately it passed pretty overwhelmingly. So, and I have a feeling that process, the presentation, I'm having to assume that the presentation probably was impactful and probably swayed some votes too. So I think it was probably a good process for the town to have gone through. So Mashpee ended up doing the same thing. It was a citizen's petition. And both human resources professionals said it really wasn't a particularly difficult process with the collective bargaining. One recommendation that was made was that, my concern is if it's worded in such a way that we recognize Indigenous Peoples Day as a holiday, and then at some point in time, Indigenous Peoples Day is created or accepted on a day other than Columbus Day, now there's labor implications. Now we actually have an additional holiday that we're so I guess my only sort of position on it is if we go through this process, I would, from my perspective, but like to see that it's specifically designated as whatever, I think it's the second Monday in October, as long as it's sort of presented in that manner and accepted in that manner, I think, we won't run the risk of actually end up having, 2 holidays that we now need to, grant to employees. But and I can continue to do some research, but at least from the 2 towns I heard, it was really that it was the citizens petition was the process in which they get it done.
Okay, that's super helpful. Yeah, so and Gene, for you, I think you know this, but yeah, so our process is that we talk about opportunities. And then once we, have discussions like this, we move them to Inflight Projects. And once it's a Inflight project, we then, have to, report and review and recommend. So like we have to dig deep, make sure that we kind of have our T's crossed and I's dotted. Maura Curran is our select board representative, and she's been fantastic in making sure that we go about this the right way, so that if and when it progresses to something that we put in front of the select board, that that we've done our homework. So that there's more homework to be done here, obviously, but I think this gives us a really good starting point. And I'm going to be involved in it. I think Angela Dre has raised her hand on this, and Ruth is already involved as well. So meetings will be scheduled.
Excellent. And not going off on a bit of a tangent, going back to the the third item that was part of our discussion back in December, which is town and state seals, and that's that is something that Scituate needs, right? We need to change our, well, in my opinion, I think we need to change our town seal. I think it is pretty offensive how it is now, and I think there are options for wonderful town seals that we've seen other towns change to. That is a really big process, because you don't have to just remove imagery, you have to come up with new imagery. And so that would be a very large project, and involving designers and involving lots of public input, and to have, because not only getting rid of one thing, but coming up with something else. So that's something that I'd love to see the town do. But getting Indigenous Peoples Day on the calendar, I think, is a great start, and an easier project to take on.
I thought so as well. Yeah. To say the least. Well, that's great. Anybody have any questions for Jean on this topic? All right. Well, thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Feel free to hang out or drop. It's up to you.
I will. I feel guilty that I haven't been attending any of these meetings, so I'll stick around and see what else you guys have to say. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, so it is time for public comment. Do we have any? I don't see any hands, so we'll keep going. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Make sure I have it open. I do. Come on. All right, so I did share the workbook maybe an hour before the meeting. So that's what I'm going to go through. And what I did was I highlighted. Yes, I did. Okay, good. I highlighted in yellow, just in the first column, the areas that I at least either made some updates to, or different discussion points. So we'll just kind of pick through these. Hopefully it won't take too long. So the Equitable Communications Project, great recommendation from Kate in the, I believe in the January meeting. We didn't have a lot of discussion about it in our last meeting. I don't know, Kate, if you've given this any additional thought, or if we want to, kick this to the next meeting, get something on the calendar, etc.
In all honesty, I haven't. But I think this conversation came up under the guise of how are we communicating out to residents and how are we providing equal access to those communication channels. I think you can think about this in a number of different layers. One is language, one is ASL, Braille, also via email versus print for folks that don't have access to the internet. So there's different dimensions you can think about it, but I thought that it might be a nice thing to consider if we take a step back from all of the different details. What would a commitment to equitable communications look like from the town, and then how would we put that into place? But I haven't gone anywhere else with that. I think some of you may know my background is in social services and also property management and fair housing laws. So I do a lot of work around this as it relates to housing. So I have some expertise in this area and have vendors that could certainly consult with us if that was helpful.
I think too, Kate, when you said that, it made me think when you mentioned, people, not everybody has access to email, just Wi-Fi access, right? Or broadband. I know it's a bigger issue perhaps in Western Massachusetts, but that equity of access. And I know, for example, Scituate Harbor doesn't always have the best Wi-Fi connections, but just curious to say the least. But curious if, part of this would be recommendations that, beyond the library, where could residents go to access free Wi-Fi for whoever may want it? I don't know what costs would be associated with that, but that's just one thought.
This just spurred a thought too, maybe a bit smaller scale, but even these types of committee meetings or board meetings, I don't think we have the live transcript on for Zooms. That's something we've been trying to do at our company. So if people, hearing is, they're hard of hearing, they're deaf, you can at least read closed captioning to a meeting or a recorded meeting, or even if we're posting things on the Scituate, like the CTV Facebook page, sometimes Zoom will have the script too. Just making sure that there's access to these types of meetings for all. It's a more probably easier thing to maybe act on sooner, but.
So I know,
That's
I think.
great suggestion.
Yes, we have the live transcript. I see it at the bottom of the screen. But are you saying too, Elena, perhaps that other committees should also have this feature? Maybe Seth knows.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to press buttons on Zoom since we're live right now, but I don't know if someone is watching this right now, can they see the transcript?
I'm sorry, are you looking for the closed captioning? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. So yes, the closed captioning is available if you so wish. If you do not want the closed captioning, you scroll down to that bottom where it says closed captioning, you click that, it'll go away. So that can, does everyone see that? Yes? Okay.
Yeah. So if someone's watching this live on the Facebook page, they can see.
They have the option there to do it as well. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Great. Then never mind. Idea is already done.
All right.
I'll just go mute myself now.
Okay.
Can I just jump in as an audience member, just to say that I just clicked on the live transcript button and you get a message saying, do you want to request that the host enable live transcription? So it does have to be enabled by the host.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, you are correct. And so Elena did just request it, and Elena, you should see it. Yes. Fantastic. There you go.
Okay.
Great.
Well, I guess the question then is how many people are aware?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. How is that communicated? People might not think that that's a thing that's accessible. And so that could prohibit, I don't know, but yeah.
Well, that brings up a really good point because, as you know, fair housing and equitable access laws as it relates to housing, right? You have to have a limited English proficiency statement on all of your important documents that essentially says, this is important, free translation is available upon request. There's more nuance to it than that, but a statement could be posted, a statement could be provided, etc. Of course, we have to be able to back that up, and translation can be expensive, and the logistics of it can be a challenge as well. But it's something that we could consider, again, just to say that, if you would like to have closed captioning that's available, available to you. If you would like additional access, that could be available to you as well. Something to think about. I think it goes a long way to promoting inclusivity.
I gotta say, it works great. I just missed what you said, Kate, for like 30 seconds, and I just looked back and there it is. So I might just keep it on forever.
Okay. All right. So it certainly seems like there's some meat on the bone here. So are we good? What if I move this to an Inflight project? And Kate, you're the owner right now. Actually, it says TBD,
but we certainly could move it to Inflight. I think it's a great idea. I also be curious to see what other projects we have and how we want to prioritize them.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Agreed. So next one, great suggestion by Celia. Non-resident beach stickers. Those of us that are signed up for different town emails and so forth, I believe it was they sold out in 7 minutes, right, for the upcoming summer season. So the recommendation was to look into the possibility of securing some non-resident beach stickers for some of our diverse landlocked communities. I don't know how easy or hard it would be to do that. The supply, the demand, always far outstrips the supply for our precious beaches.
And I think too, Tom, if not surrounding areas, how do we prioritize access for those who are closest to Scituate? So Metco students, for example, that come to school here, but whose families live elsewhere and don't have beach access, or Bob would know better, but town employees who aren't Scituate residents, right? Like, do they get priority? Essentially, my thought was, this is a perk, right? And not everyone has it, and I don't know if for non-residents, if they can obtain these online or have to go into town hall, but either way, that's a privilege for those who are not hourly workers. Like, hourly workers cannot just take off and go pick it up or log off and, get it online. So automatically we're taking away access from a certain population, right? So how are we looking at distribution more equitably? And if not the whole amount, I don't know how many there are that are distributed or purchased, is there a segment of that? And could we at least start by prioritizing Metco students, right? And, what's one way of getting more people to see Scituate's beauty and, experience all of that if we are trying to attract more people to the workforce for Bob and for all of us and different residents. So just that was just some of the thoughts, but.
Just to address a few of the things that you mentioned, I think I could be wrong, but I think this is the first year that they did it all online. And that's actually, I think, one of the reasons it sold out in 7 minutes. I think that they opened it up, and then within 7, so have people just sitting on their computers refreshing. I think, like Tom said, I think the demand far outweighs the supply. I also think it's relative. I'm not sure the expense, but I think it's pretty expensive. I think it's relatively, I don't want to quote a figure, but so
I think it's $200 or $300.
Yeah, that's what I was
could be wrong.
250 or something, yeah. So that's a challenge as well, but clearly, I think that just even the fact that you have a system that is sells out in 7 minutes is indicative of just something there that just whatever, that's just not seeming to kind of to make sense or work as well as it could. But and I do know that I'm not sure that it's not a benefit necessarily I'm sure it's a benefit that some employees would love to see, but it's not something that I'm aware of as extending to people. But yeah, there's a lot of very passionate opinions on the issue of non-resident beach tickets.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, no, there's definitely,
I bet this is a hot topic issue for sure in the town. You know, I was thinking, could there be a limited number of parking passes for beaches that's at the library that could be checked out, with the goal of, you know, you can use it for a day, you know, whatever, there are parameters around it, but there's just a few, but there's something that could be checked out, and then we could figure out how that's promoted, you know, or how we may want to prioritize individuals as appropriate, but that might be a nice way to provide some access. And the library, I don't know if anyone has looked at the library of things that the library provides. You can check out paddle boards and candle making kits and telescopes. It's the library is so cool. But one of the things that it's doing is it's providing this kind of access, right, for individuals that may not be able to afford these things. So we could think about parking for beaches in the same way.
no, I can have some conversations on my end. I mean, again, I don't have a lot of information on kind of, you know, what are some of the ramifications and some of the limitations, but I can certainly do that and at least talk to some people in town hall and get a sense of, like, you know, what are their thoughts and what are the potential obstacles to kind of to be considering how we do that. But you know, I think it just starts with having some conversations about, you know, kind of, you know, what's working, what isn't, what are the pitfalls, and maybe I can report back at the next meeting and we can have a further discussion. But
Okay.
I love the idea. It's $300 for a beach sticker. So I think it's pretty cost prohibitive too for some, in addition to just probably quantity, like, so it's probably twofold, right? Quantity and cost.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea would be to either discount them or free.
Yeah, free sounds great. But I don't know the hot debate around non-resident beach stickers, so.
Welcome to Scituate.
Maybe some of the research, and Bob, let me know if I can help in any way, is how much revenue does the town generate from non-resident beach stickers? And if they forego $3,000 of whatever, is that really a huge impact on the annual budget? And since we're a year out, well, I don't know, timeline wise, but they just sold out. So we have some time until the next cycle in theory. So this is one of those things that I'd be happy to help with to get it in flight, because I think it would be really nice if we could increase access. I don't know, for me specifically to the METCO students or those who don't live here, but, you know, commute here every day.
and I wonder the extent to which, you know, the people who are looking for the non-resident beach stickers, and maybe people who, you know, some are here for, you know, short periods of time, and so it's important for them. I think it's just like surrounding the neighbors, and it could be, you know, other landlocked communities that look to come to Scituate to visit the beach. But my sense is that the demand, you know, just, you know, think of the numbers. If it sells out in 7 minutes, the demand is probably tenfold beyond the supply. And I don't think that there's very many beach stickers that non-resident beach stickers are even available. So there's so many sort of dynamics to this. And one thing I do know in talking to some of the staff at Town Hall is that there's more, I think that there's more, honestly, tension in related to non-resident beach stickers than probably any other issue that they face at, like, the, you know, at the treasure collector's office at that. There's people who are just very, who struggle with the limited access that they have, I think, and there's a lot of people who are like looking for that as a benefit. So those are some of the things that we're kind of up against, right? So
isn't there a town committee that has something to do with the beaches, or am I just making that up? Not looking after this issue, but
I wouldn't be surprised, Tom. There's a lot of committees, but that one isn't like immediately familiar to me. But again, I'll
that's
look
fine.
at that too. But, you know,
okay.
So yeah.
Thank you.
From what
Jamil, were you going to jump in?
Yeah, I was going to say, from what I've been able to gather, this conversation is not new,
Yeah.
but and has a lot of layers to it.
Yeah.
I think Connor was working on something for a little bit too, so he may be someone that folks can connect with. I think what Bob is saying, there's definitely a lot of layers to this. So not it's because it's not only the passes themselves, but parking as well, just in general, is just is a thing.
Oh yeah, it's a nightmare. Yeah.
There is a Scituate Beach Commission.
And it looks like
Committee.
Connor's on it.
Yeah.
Of course he is. Okay. All right. Okay, great. Let me just make a quick note before I forget.
I'd also say that doesn't mean that we can't, put some efforts forward. That doesn't mean we can't figure out some different way to do it. Some way to kind of make it happen. This is the same thing with the points that Gene were making, that even these may be uphill battles, but maybe they don't have to be battles at all. We just have to think. Sometimes just thinking outside the box leads us to new ways of doing things that folks can absorb differently than however they've been absorbed before. So I challenge us to think about some different ways we can do some things.
Okay. I think we are running a little behind, so I'll try to. But I mean, just great conversation. So I flipped over to Inflight Projects. One of the things I did do was I moved the Cape Verde sister city over to recommendations, because we will be, I believe, targeting April select board meeting to get in front of them to talk about that. So very excited for that. So a few other things here. So and I selfishly put in yellow because we did meet Board of Health, Fact, Social Services last week. Good discussion. Acknowledging that we hadn't done much with following up with these groups and so forth, and those of us involved, Kate and Reverend Stewart, and so the way we kind of talked about this was that this was all, like, a lot of the different things that we talked to the Board of Health, Fact, Social Services, vets about, and Bob was with us too, was specific to, like, a lot of things that the Freedom Team may be able to address, a lot of the different services and so forth, to kind of bookend the town and address some of these things. So one of the things that, so the action item, just cutting to the chase, is to, and it's on me, is I am going to be reaching out to you, Jamil, to dig a little deeper on the scope and so forth, and just have a discussion with our project team specific to this. Okay, so that's the next step there. Were there any discussions? Did any of our internal kind of SWAT teams, project teams, anything on Scituate Police or DPW since the last meeting? Okay, excuse me. Then I'll table that. All right. So training. We met on training as well. Excuse me. Myself, Kate, Elena, and Bob met. Yeah, this was pretty soon after our last meeting, so on February 15th, and we kind of, in all honesty, and I wish we can follow up with more on this, but we kind of flipped this a little, to be fair, and we basically said, and I'm gonna I'm going to ask you to speak, Bob, because I think Bob was like, I am the director of HR in Scituate. I can mandate this stuff. So do you want to pick it up from there?
Sure. I mean, we have, and I think I mentioned it previously, we have an internal system. It's a local GovU, which in which we have already mandated, we've mandated anti-discrimination training for all employees. And I mentioned before to people that there's some limitations to that and some challenges, in part because not everyone sits at a computer screen. So, but we're working through that, and we're doing some groups at the library. We reserve computers at certain times at the library. We'd have DPWs, 4 or 5 DPW employees at a time, head over to the library to sit down and take the training, 1 hour training, 1.5 hour training. So that has worked well. But the reality is that system is sort of in place, and we have a mechanism right now to kind of just to continue sort of rolling out additional requirements. And we actually, just one thing that we've done in labor relations and negotiations over the last couple of sessions is we made very clear to the unions that we believe mandating training is a right that we have, management right that we have, and it's something that we were really going to look at kind of rolling out, and we had a lot of support from the unions to do that. So we don't see obstacles in that regard. So basically, we have a mechanism, and our intent is to continue to sort of roll out an additional required trainings. There's some limitations to what we can provide through NeoGov. I'm sorry, local GovU. But there's a good 4 or 5 additional trainings that actually look like they can be useful. So that's our intention. So I think we probably would be looking at doing this every few months. I just don't want to totally like overload people to the point where it's a tedious, burdensome process. Something that hopefully they actually look forward to and can engage with. So that's one thing that we know that we can do. We also recognize that, that isn't the ideal sort of training. In some situations, it's an ideal training forum. We would like to kind of diversify a little bit and maybe offer different types of trainings, and even if it's live trainings or discussion groups or brown bag lunches, whatever that may be. And so that's the next thing I think the committee will kind of look at doing is trying to identify some of those types of trainings that may be helpful. But the first thing we'll do is just do the online system.
Thanks, Bob. So with regards to this, we don't necessarily need to make what Bob just described, the local GovU, and what he's going to be doing, rolling out every few months. We do not necessarily need to officially recommend this to the select board. It'll be more of a status update, which, we need to do that as well. So, next time, well, April I mentioned, right? So with Cape Verde, and if we can progress something else to the point of a recommendation, we'll report on it in front of the select board. So again, likely in April. So we need to nail that date down, which we can do next time I talk to Maura. All right, thank you. All right, Indigenous peoples we just discussed. So I'm not going to belabor the point. I will take the action item to get a meeting on the books with those of us that I discussed, right? So with Angela, with Bob, with Ruth, and we'll report back, but certainly hope to make some progress on this with, I think the priority right now, unless you guys tell me different, to focus on Indigenous Peoples Day. Okay. All right. All right, well, we made up some ground. And as I mentioned, I moved sister city here over to recommendations. I know there's a little bit of work, Angela, Ruth, and I've been behind on email and stuff, so I know she sent some recommendations around some like wordsmithing and so forth for the slides, but we'll make sure to share that with everyone. We've already voted on it, so we are going to recommend this, and we'll true up and massage some of the slides, you know, and make sure that everyone's aware of that. Okay. Anything else that anyone wants to discuss with regards to the project plan opportunities workbook?
I did want to give
Yes.
a quick update on the gender neutral bathrooms. I did talk to the facilities director, Kevin Kelly, and he talked to his the supplier of the signs. In the image that we presented to him with our preferred image, he is having difficulty finding a vendor that actually has that image. And so, and I don't know how we, and I could, you know, I know it was, I mean, Kate and I forget who else was on the committee with us. So it was like really looking at that. But so I want to present some other optional images and decide if that's acceptable to us or not. He potentially could go ahead and get the image that we wanted was a toilet and with the room underneath it, with the word underneath that said restroom. It was very simple and kind of like to the point. That's the image he's not able to find. He's able to find an image that has a toilet and it says all gender underneath. They have that in stock that we could easily put those up. But I didn't want him to go ahead unless we knew for certain that that was going to be acceptable to us. So I don't know if that's something that we want to, you know, sort of consider, or if we should talk offline on that, or so one sort of option.
Are you able to see my screen?
Mhm.
Yes.
With do you see the?
We see your grid. We see your Excel sheet.
Okay, let me switch my share. Okay. Bear with me. So simple question. Did he? I mean, so this took a while to find.
Right.
Yeah. Does he have the right link?
Yeah, I mean, if you have, well, that's just, he said, he asked me, he goes, do you think Tom has that link? And I said, I don't know. I had a feeling you just probably saw it in Google Images, but if you can send that link to me, maybe
I will.
it's as easy as that. So that may resolve the issue. But his vendor, it's the same exact image, but instead of restroom, it says all gender. Or all genders, I think.
Right.
But if we,
this wasn't easy to find. I think a lot of us looked, right, and I don't know if I was able to find it. It doesn't matter, right? But yeah, I bookmarked it because I'm like, I'll never be able to find that again.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I was surprised you did, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'll send that over to you.
So should I then assume then we should just, because we had already decided that at one point, we should move ahead with this image, knowing that this vendor has it available.
I think so. I mean, I haven't
think so.
tried to buy one, but I give credit to Kate. I mean, Kate would, you know, really zeroed in on this particular picture. So
I think we go ahead with this as long as this vendor, you know, works for the town.
All right.
all right, so yeah, I will go ahead. I'll send that over to you as soon as we're done. So.
Thanks, Tom.
And that reminds me, and I should have brought it up. So we're all aware because we all saw it, but Maura, you know, sent out, or it was actually from Lorraine Devon, I think, sent out the commitment statement, and Maura's right up below, you know, further down in the email as to, you know, what we've been up to and the fact that it was the commitment statement was recommended and is going to be read at committee meetings, town meeting, etc. So great stuff there. So I just wanted to share that. Okay. All right. Does anyone have anything else they want to bring up in terms of other business?
I just wanted folks to just, if you haven't, pay attention to what's going on in Texas regarding LGBTQI plus friends and family out there. So,
In Florida.
yeah.
And Florida.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
No doubt. No doubt. All right. All right. I don't have anything else. You see the future meeting dates out here. So April 12th, plenty to do in between, obviously. And I will motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So I will call the roll. Ms. Dre,
Yes.
Ms. Risha,
Yes.
Ms. Gulata,
Yes.
and Ms. Swope. And
Yes.
I am a yes as well. And that is a wrap. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a good night.
everyone.